more ndi macheroni batho bote. Avudi, a very warm South African welcome to you all. I would first like to acknowledge the presence of dignitaries joining us today from government, diplomatic corps, industry, academia, media, and of course, international guests in attendance. And to our sign language interpreter, Tsulu, you are welcome. It is my distinct honor to welcome you all to the 9th CSIR biannual conference held in collaboration with the global sustainable technology and innovation community that is G-STIC. It is an initiative that is led by the Belgian Research and Technology Institution or organization VITO. I'm sure by now you are wondering, maybe even asking your neighbor, who is this fine specimen of a human creation that the entire CSIR has gone to great lengths to unearth? My name is Lerato Ditsejo. I am an entrepreneur, a speaker, and a coach. I'm a certified 10 out of 10. The head girl in charge. I come from a lineage of those who are nestled high up in the Limpopo province. Ke bolela Sepedi, da dobanda amba na Tshivenda. A special welcome goes to those who are joining us online. Your online presence and participation is highly appreciated this morning. We will now take a moment perhaps to familiarize ourselves with the CSIR ICC health and safety rules. We do have a representative who will come up here and share the safety briefing with us. A round of applause, please.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to the CSIR International Convention Center. Before you proceed, I'm going to give you a couple of health protocols as well as evacuation protocols of the center. Kindly make use of our hand sanitizer stations located within the venue, as well as the communal areas as frequently as possible. Should you fall ill or require medical attention, kindly report to the reception area, whereby a first aid facility, as well as trained paramedics will be made available to you. In the unlikely event of an emergency, an alarm will sound throughout the building. Trained responders will give instructions on evacuation. Stay calm. Take only belongings that you can carry. Walk in an orderly manner. Do not run. Responders will lead you to an emergency exit, then to the assembly point. As this is a public building, please do not leave your valuables unattended. Restrooms are available throughout the building. Please look out for signage. Free wireless internet access is available throughout the building. Select Free CSR ICC on your device. No password is required. For assistance, please call on any of our staff members who will contact a technician to provide support. Thank you and enjoy your session.
Thank you very much. Now, to connect to the Wi-Fi or to the internet, please select the network Free CSIR ICC Wi-Fi. No password is required. No blood works, no BMI, glucose, none of the above. The hashtag that we will be using throughout the conference is hashtag CSIR at ATXGSTIC. Please go ahead and do engage us on social media. We want to hear about your experience here, your learnings, and of course, your feedback. And maybe throw in a photo or two, because as the streets say, if they didn't see it, it simply didn't happen. To access the program, ladies and gentlemen, you are free to scan the QR code on your delegate tags. So you do have a QR code on your delegate tags. Feel free to scan that to have a look at the program that we have lined up for today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to invite you to please stand for the singing of the national anthem.
Ufedi sedi ntwali matswenye
sibuluke sejaba sa Yesu sejaba sa South Africa, South Africa. Diploma non se yema, deep defa non se. Leon is sounds so cool to come together, and united we shall stay. Let us live and strive for freedom in South Africa. Thank you. You may take your seats. Just a few friendly reminders. And also, in keeping with the times, we no longer say housekeeping. Those are things of the medieval times. To keep up with the times, we say a few friendly reminders. In the same way, we no longer say to whom it may concern. Now we say to whom it's about to concern. Watch it accelerate things for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask that you please switch off your cell phones or perhaps keep them on silent mode. Now, in true South African style, I would like to honor a few of these significant moments that we are celebrating here, specifically as it relates to what is happening right now. As we know it, for the first time, G-STIC is hosted on African soil. And with that, we say, halala G-STIC Pretoria, halala. And while we are there, this momentous occasion also coincides with the 80th anniversary of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR. Halala CSIR, halala. To our global community, halala is a chorus of celebration. It acknowledges that we are all in alignment with what has just been said. To officially welcome us and to provide context to the significance of this convergence, it is my great honor to welcome Dr. Thulani Dlamini, the Chief Executive Officer of the CSIR. Now, he has been at the helm of our country's premier research institution since 2017. A round of applause, please, as he takes to the podium.
Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, Professor Blade Nzimande, joining us virtually. The Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Science, Technology and Innovation, Ms. Tsakane Shiviti, and other honorable members of the STI Portfolio Committee. The Chairperson of the CSR Board, Mr. Vuyani Chakana, and other members of the CSR Board present. Members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, Lieutenant General Rozani Mapanyo, Directors Generals, Deputy Directors Generals from various government departments, CEOs, senior executives and officials of science councils, academia, industry and government, the Director, Water and Energy Transition, Ed Vito, Lynn Hovitz, and other members of the Global Sustainable Technology and Innovation Community. Mr. Greg Kuzman, Director of Health at the Rockefeller Foundation, conference speakers and exhibitors, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I would like to extend a very warm word of welcome to all of you to the 9th edition of the CSR Conference, which is held in partnership with the Global Sustainable Technology and Innovation Community, G-STIC. I would also like to thank the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation for his continued support to the CSIR, further evidenced by his virtual presence today, even though he is on official government business in Europe. We are very excited to welcome you to the CSIR at 80 G-STIC Conference, with over 1,413 delegates joining us in person, and many others connecting online from across South Africa, the African continent, and the world. Over the next 2.5 days, you will engage with more than 140 talks, including keynote addresses, thematic panel discussions, and expert dialogues. These talks will cover critical themes such as energy, climate change, health, agriculture, security, advanced manufacturing, mobility, as well as the circular economy. As part of the program, you will also have the opportunity to join guided tours of some of our world-class infrastructure and facilities here at the CSIR, and I trust that you have already registered for these tours. Alongside the tours, we have also curated an exhibition of 16 cutting-edge research, development, and innovation projects of the CSIR, whilst also providing space for our partners to showcase their work. During his visit to the CSIR in April 2025, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa rightly referred to the CSIR as a national treasure, a treasure that continues to touch lives through innovation. This year's conference carries a very special significance for us. On Sunday, the 5th of October, the CSIR turned 8 years, marking 8 decades of touching lives through innovation. The CSIR's history is marked by numerous innovations that have supported industrial development and contributed towards building a capable state in South Africa, as well as, of course, the partners that we work with across the world. Throughout our history, we have introduced many pioneering innovations. For instance, within the manufacturing sector, we have developed one of the largest high-speed laser-based additive manufacturing platforms for printing metal components, as well as the world-first daylight camera capable of detecting and visualizing ultraviolet emissions caused by the electrical discharge on high-voltage power transmission lines. In agriculture, some of our innovations, recent developments include Precision Agriculture Information System, which aims to enhance decision-making through advanced space-based technologies leveraging satellite and drone data, climate modeling, and big data analytics. This enables farmers to manage risks such as drought, pests, as well as crop disease, issues that have previously led to multi-million rand losses to our farming community. We have also developed a livestock identification and traceability system, which is a web-based and desktop application that registers vaccinations of animals and manages the movement of livestock for the purposes of disease control. In the defense and security sector, we are collaborating with a multinational company, Hensoldt, South Africa, to commercialize one of our phased array radar technology. We have also developed the digital fingerprint biometric system to aid in the identification of deceased persons, reducing the emotional trauma to affected families, but also reducing the cost to the state associated with the storage of unclaimed deceased individuals. In 2024, we launched the CSIR Transport Safety Laboratory, which collects and analyzes road safety data to improve transport safety policies, standards, and products in South Africa. In the area of the circular economy, we are proud to have established Africa's first biodegradation testing facility in partnership with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization and the Japanese government. Our work plays a role in building a more inclusive and connected world by closing the digital divide. Through one of our grassroots innovation programs, 13 rural and township communities across 6 South African provinces have gained access to affordable wireless broadband services. This was made possible by the deployment of CSIR's technology that utilizes unused frequency spectrum. A key part of this success has been the empowerment of 11 small and medium enterprises as wireless internet service providers, who were instrumental in rolling out this technology and creating a number of job opportunities in the communities where they operate. To date, over 70,000 users have been connected to the network, including 212 public facilities, 2,637 households, 273 local small businesses, and 183 public hotspots created. We are especially proud to host this year's conference in collaboration with the Global Sustainable Technology and Innovation Community, an initiative led by the Belgian research technology organization VITO. This marks G-STIC's first ever conference on the African continent. To our colleagues from G-STIC, welcome to Africa, a continent with boundless potential and opportunities. The theme for this year's conference is Science, Technology and Innovation for a Sustainable Future. This theme challenges all of us as scientists and engineers to work together to confront the profound responsibility of using our skills, knowledge, and gifts to create a better world, where there is prosperity for all, a world without poverty, human suffering, and environmental degradation. We cannot be oblivious to the fact that there can never be a sustainable future in the world when science is used to cause harm. However, we have seen time and again how scientific advancements have been used to cause harm, resulting in devastating outcomes. We must be honest with ourselves and acknowledge that science can be a double-edged sword. However, if used correctly, science can be a force for positive change, but if not used correctly, it can cause a lot of harm. In our times, artificial intelligence stands as a symbol of opportunity, but also as a source of profound risk. Artificial intelligence automates repetitive tasks with efficiency. Artificial intelligence technologies like speech recognition and natural language processing improve accessibility for people with disabilities. Artificial intelligence-driven systems improve safety in cars, in factories, and infrastructure by predicting faults and avoiding accidents. And in the area of scientific research, artificial intelligence accelerates progress by simulating complex processes and discovering patterns in data. While it is good that AI brings great benefits, it also has its potential downsides. AI-driven automation may replace jobs, especially routine or manual jobs, causing unemployment and social disruption. AI systems trained on biased data can perpetuate or even amplify social inequalities. AI often requires large amounts of personal data, raising questions about privacy risks. Many AI models, especially deep learning, are black boxes. It is hard to understand how they make decisions, and this lack of explainability can be dangerous in critical areas like healthcare or criminal justice. AI can be used maliciously, such as creating deepfakes, automating cyber attacks, and enabling autonomous weapons. There are also ethical and moral questions, such as who is responsible when AI causes harm. Decisions made by artificial intelligence in life and death situations raise complex moral questions. AI has incredible potential to improve our lives, improve healthcare, the economy, and knowledge, but it also brings significant risks that require thoughtful governance, transparency, ethics, inclusive policy making and regulation. Together, we can ensure that science becomes the light that guides humanity to a sustainable future. Let us develop innovations that heal, technologies that empower, and knowledge that unites. I look forward to the impactful discussions and meaningful engagements that lie ahead of us over the next 3 days. Looking at science, technology, and innovation for a sustainable future. Conversations that will undoubtedly strengthen and expand local, regional, and international science networks and partnerships. Welcome to South Africa. Welcome to the CSIR. I wish you a pleasant stay with us over the next 2 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dlamini. You have perfectly set the tone and have shared a wonderful launchpad upon which we can confidently continue building for a sustainable future. Siyabonga. As mentioned earlier on, the CSIR at 80 G-STIC Conference Pretoria is hosted in collaboration with G-STIC. Now, to share a G-STIC message of support, please join me in welcoming Lynn Huvarts. Ms. Lynn Huvarts has more than 15 years of experience in policy-orientated research on sustainable urban development. At present, she serves as the Director of Water and Energy Transition at VITO. A round of applause, please.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, it is a true honor to address you this morning at the opening of this conference, held in a year of special significance. Our host, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, celebrates 80 years of impact, 8 decades of pioneering science, innovation, and commitment to improving lives in South Africa and beyond. On behalf of VITO and the entire G-STIC community, allow me to extend our warmest congratulations to the CSIR on this remarkable anniversary. Your legacy of turning science into real-world solutions has not only transformed industries and strengthened communities, but has also fostered collaboration across borders and inspired global partnerships. It is also a milestone for G-STIC, our first conference on African soil. After editions in Belgium, the United Arab Emirates, Brazil, and India, bringing the conference to Pretoria reflects our deep appreciation for the CSIR's leadership and our firm belief that Africa must be at the center of the global dialogue on sustainability and innovation. This conference brings us together under a theme that could not be more timely: science, technology, and innovation for a sustainable future. It speaks directly to our shared mission to develop practical, scalable, and inclusive solutions to the great challenges of our time, from climate change to resource scarcity and economic resilience. Science and innovation are the engines that drive progress. They are how we translate knowledge into action, ideas into impact, and ambition into a better world. But innovation alone is not enough. We need collaboration across borders, across disciplines, across sectors, to ensure that technologies and insights we develop truly serve people and planet. That, in essence, is what G-STIC stands for: a global platform that connects STI, policy and finance to accelerate the uptake of technologies that can make the Sustainable Development Goals a reality. For me personally, this gathering is also a celebration of partnership, of what we achieve when institutes unite around a shared purpose. The collaboration between VITO in Belgium and the CSIR in South Africa perfectly embodies that spirit. Together, we have committed to advancing research and innovation in sustainable technologies, such as renewable energy, water management, and circular economy solutions. With the continued support of the political leadership of South Africa and Belgium and Flanders, for which we are very grateful, in 2022 we formalized our cooperation through a memorandum of understanding, paving the way for joint research and innovation partnerships. Over the years 23 and 24, our teams and I was personally involved, developed and launched a new energy storage testbed in Pretoria. It is my pleasure to be here for the third time at the CSIR premises. I'm very glad to hear that the test facilities are ramping up in their collaboration with industries. It's a facility to build battery performance and strengthen local renewable energy technology value chain. This achievement goes beyond technology. It reflects how science can serve society and how international cooperation can drive local benefit. At its heart lies a simple truth. When we work together, we amplify our impact towards a just, clean and resilient future. This week, Pretoria becomes the heart of a global conversation on sustainable innovation. Bringing the G-STIC Conference to Africa for the first time is not just symbolic, it is transformative. It acknowledges Africa's growing role in shaping the world sustainability agenda, and it celebrates the continent's extraordinary innovation potential. Across Africa, we see a new generation of entrepreneurs, engineers, and researchers developing homegrown solutions, from solar microgrids to climate-smart agriculture and digital health and green manufacturing. These are not only African solutions, they are global. And by convening here, we aim to shine a light on these innovations and to foster partnerships that will help them scale within Africa and across the world. We also align this dialogue with broader regional ambitions, from South Africa's National Development Plan to the African Union's Agenda 2063, which envisages a prosperous, technology-driven Africa. Hosting G-STIC here brings that vision within the UN's 2030 agenda, reminding us that the path to sustainability is universal and that Africa's progress is integral to the general progress. As we look ahead, we must recognize that true sustainability is not driven by technology alone, but by systemic change, by transforming the way our institutions, industries, and communities work together and deliver lasting impact. True transformation happens when we rethink the way our systems connect, linking energy, water, food, and industry in ways that reinforce each other rather than compete. Innovation must therefore reach beyond individual solutions. When we develop solar solutions for off-grid communities or digital tools for smallholder farmers, we are not simply solving technical problems, we are helping to redesign the systems that sustain livelihoods and growth. That's why education, capacity building, and entrepreneurship must be embedded within every innovation effort. Technology alone cannot transform societies. Systemic change does. As we accelerate transitions in energy, water, and industry, we must focus on integration, ensuring that progress in one area strengthens another, and that together these shifts build resilience, prosperity, and long-term impact. Over the next few days, this conference will provide a platform to exchange knowledge, forge partnership, and explore solutions that are both evidence-based and transformative in practice. Let us use this opportunity not only to share ideas, but to commit to action. We are not starting from scratch. We are standing on 80 years of scientific excellence from institutions like the CSIR, decades of innovation by partners around the world, and a growing recognition that the time to act boldly and together is now. And as I look around this room, I see a global community united by purpose and passion, scientists, entrepreneurs, policymakers, and change makers from across the world. Each of us carries a part of the solution. Let us work together to turn our shared knowledge into shared progress. Let us ensure that the science and innovation we nurture here in Pretoria light the way to a sustainable, inclusive, and resilient future. One built on collaboration, shared vision, and collective action. On behalf of Vito and the entire G-STIC network, I would like to thank our host, the CSIR, for their warm hospitality and visionary leadership, and all of you for being part of our shared journey. Thank you.
Thank you for your partnership, your message of support and encouragement. We appreciate it. I would now like to invite to the stage Mr. Kani Shiviti Chair of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Science, Technology and Innovation. Since June of 2024, she has served in the National Assembly as a representative of the African National Congress, championing South Africa's innovation agenda with both distinction and purpose. A round of applause, please, as she makes her way up.
Program Director, Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, Dr. Bladen Zemande, Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee of Science, Technology and Innovation, my colleagues that came with me today, Chairperson of the CSIR Board, Mr. Vuyani Chakana, the CEO of CSIR, Dr. Thulan Dlamini, Director of Water and Energy Transition at Vito, Ms. Leanne Govets. I guess I got that right. Members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests from government, business, academia, industry, and science councils, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, Ausheni, Ndimacheroni, good morning. I stand before you with both responsibilities and optimism. As chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Science, Technology and Innovation in Parliament, it is an honor to address the CSIR 80th G-STIC Conference and to reaffirm our shared resolve to use science, technological and innovation as engines for sustainable and inclusive future. This is not an ordinary gathering. It is where history meets possibility, where science meets society, where research meets responsibility. The world around us is shifting at extraordinary speed. Artificial intelligence, biotechnology, renewable energy, material science, data science, countless other fields are reshaping every aspect of how we live, work, interact, and govern. These changes carry immense promise and profound disruptions. For South Africa, this global transformation is not just a challenge. It is a pressing imperative and a promising opportunity. An opportunity to move from being passive consumers of technology to becoming creators, adapters, drivers, innovators of solutions that speak to our unique context, challenges, and aspirations. In our country, we face deep and complex challenges: sluggish economic growth, high levels of unemployment, especially amongst the youth, inequality, climate change, energy constraints, and infrastructural backlogs. Science, technology, and innovation hold potential to contribute significantly to address these systematic issues. But to do so, we must approach science, technology, and innovation not as a niche activity, but as integral strategic pillar of national development. Our committee plays an essential role in ensuring that our country's national system of innovation functions efficiently, transparently, and inclusively. We are committed to oversight, ensuring that institutions like CSIR and other entities deliver on their mandates. And we are resourced and are well-resourced and well-governed. We are also committed to policy coherence, advocating for alignment between science policy and economic, environmental, educational, and industrial strategy. We are also committed to transformation, promoting the inclusion of women, youth, Black researchers, and under-resourced institutions in science, technology, and innovation landscape. We are also committed to resource mobilization, encouraging investment in research and development infrastructure and commercialization support and international cooperation, supporting frameworks that position South Africa as a global science partner, especially across Africa. We are living through overlapping crises: climate change, energy and insecurity, economic inequality, and global instability. Yet we are also standing on the cusp of remarkable opportunity: scientific breakthrough in renewable energy, biotechnology, digital platform, material science, and AI offers new hope if we apply them wisely and inclusively. Let me be clear, Program Director, innovation is not a luxury. It is a development imperative. It must not remain confined to laboratories or boardrooms. It must reach the township entrepreneurs in Malamulele and Umlazi areas, the health clinic in a remote village in Komazi, and the informal trader who sustained local economies. As Parliament, we will continue to ask difficult but necessary questions. Are our innovative outcomes resolving real problems for real people? Are we investing sufficiently in future skills and science, technology, engineering, and mathematical education? Are our institution representatives agile and collaborative? Are we using public funds effectively to de-risk and scale innovation with national impact? The CSIR AET G-STIC Conference provides us with an opportunity to recommit ourselves to our scientists and engineers, to remain bold, ethical, and dedicated to public goods. To the private sector, to co-invest with purpose, localize and create jobs, not to defund the sector. Academia, to teach and research with relevancy. To the international partners, to collaborate with humility and respect. To our youth, to believe in your power to create, build, innovate. And government and parliament, we must lead with vision and courage. Let us leave this conference not just inspired, but activated to do more. Nakens.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shiviti, for your insightful and forward-looking remarks. Hakenza. Our next speaker brings both wisdom and strategic clarity to this milestone moment. Mr. Vuyani Jahana is the chairperson of the CSIR board. He will be delivering his remarks as well as introduce the keynote speaker. Following his address, or following the keynote address, I will return to the stage to outline the next steps as well as how we will proceed from here on. But first, it is with great anticipation that I invite Mr. Vuyani Jahana, another certified 10 out of 10, founder and CEO of Elita Telecommunications. This is a company that is dedicated to delivering super fast, affordable broadband to underprivileged communities. A round of applause, please.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Honorable Minister, Dr. Blade Nzimande, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Science, Technology and Innovation, Ms. Tsakane Shivini, members of the board here present from the CSIR point of view, the director from Vito, Leanne, members of the portfolio committee, distinguished guests, good morning. It is a pleasure and special privilege on behalf of the board to say a few words in this august occasion. Since 2006, the CSIR has hosted this conference biennially, serving as a platform for national systems of innovation to gather, reaffirm our shared mission, advancing society using science, technology, and innovation. Today, and for the next 2 days, we have come together once again as science, technology, and innovation community, this time with a focus on sustainability in collaboration with our partners, G-STIC. I was particularly pleased to see this year's conference theme, Science, Technology, Innovation for Sustainable Future, which shines the spotlight on sustainability, a concept that resonates deeply with the global agenda. Notable, the G20 Summit, also hosted here in South Africa in the next month, places sustainability as one of the core themes for South Africa's G20 presidency. And we expect a lot of this concept to shape the deliberation as the global G20 leaders converge in South Africa. This alignment sends the message that if we do not prioritize sustainability in all our operations today, we risk leaving behind a world that is diminished for future generations. The well-known saying that we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, but we borrow it from our children, encapsulates this moral imperative. It reminds us that we are merely custodians of the planet, and the choices we make today will shape the legacy that we leave behind. Our gathering today is also to celebrate a national icon in the science and innovation space, the CSIR. What makes this organization truly remarkable is its ability to adapt in the face of disruptive, constant change. The world around us continues to evolve. What once built economies no longer holds the same power today. The drivers of industrial growth from a decade ago have shifted dramatically. Our climate is no longer what it was 5 years ago, and the global pandemics have reminded us how swiftly and unpredictable change can come. Even people themselves change their needs, their values, and expectations. Amid all of this change, for 8 decades, the CSIR has remained steadfast in its mission to touch lives through innovation. It has consistently met the needs of the people, era by era, and never lost its sight of its purpose. To this day, the organization leverages its diverse pool of competencies to equally benefit public and private sectors by addressing the triple challenge of unemployment, inequality, and poverty, thereby contributing to improving the quality of life of our citizens. Our research programs align with the country's national priorities as articulated by the President of South Africa and address various national strategies and frameworks, including the National Development Plan, as well as policies, particularly those of the Department of Science, Technology, and Innovation. Harnessing research, development, and innovation is imperative for South Africa to build a robust South African economy, increase local production, and address unemployment. This is informed by the Department of Science and Innovation's Decadal Plan, amongst other government imperatives and industry needs, and supported by CSIR strategy. Innovation is at the core of our business. Over the next 2.5 days, we will engage in dialogue, which aims to accelerate the deployment of transformative solutions that can help to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. With a strong regional focus, the engagement will elevate the African continent's perspective in the global sustainability dialogue, championing homegrown solutions with the potential to scale them up worldwide. More than talks, we expect commitments. Commitments to share data, scale what works, build skills, and accelerate deployment here in South Africa, across the continent, as well as globally. Allow me to thank our colleagues from the Department of Science, Technology, and Innovation, our international partner led by Vito through G-STIC, our sponsors, exhibitors, and fellow board members for their support. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my privilege to welcome the Minister of Science, Technology, and Innovation, Dr. Blade Nzimande. Thank you, Minister, for your leadership in placing science, technology, and innovation at the center of government, at the center of education, center of industry and society. Minister, the floor is now yours. Thank you.
Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Science, Technology and Innovation, Ms. Tsakani Chiviti. I should also have greeted the Program Director. The Chairperson of the CSIR Board, Mr. Vuyani Chakana. Members of the CSIR Board, Commissioner and CEO of Border Management Authority, Dr. Mike Masiapato, Acting Director General of the Department of Science, Technology, Innovation, Mr. Dan Tutoit, members of the Diplomatic Corps and international guests, CEO of the CSIR, Dr. Tulan Dlamini, Dr. Leon Govaerts, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correct, I'm trying my Dutch, of Vito, and GSTIC, the co-hosts, senior executive and officials of the DSTI and the CSIR, as well as other government officials, heads of research and academic institutions, leaders of business and industry, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I'm truly honored to deliver this keynote address on this important occasion, the 9th biennial conference of the CSIR, which is held in collaboration with the Global Sustainable Technology and Innovation Community. I would have dearly liked to be there with you, but unfortunately, due to official commitments, in support of our President, His Excellency, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, at the EU Global Gateway Forum in Brussels, it was not possible. I must also say that your chosen theme for this conference, which is Science, Technology, and Innovation for a Sustainable Future, is particularly apt as it affirms the role of science, technology, and innovation in securing the well-being of humanity and building a more just and humane world. It also aligns well with the mantra of our department, which is placing science, technology, and innovation at the center of education, government, society, and industry. Guided by your theme, I wish to reflect on a few things which I believe a conference of this nature should consider. First, on the evolution of the CSIR. The first is the fact that this conference coincides with the 80th anniversary of one of South Africa's premier public research institutions, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. The CSIR is one of the success stories of the transformation project that has been underway in our country since we attained our democracy in 1994. Formed in 1945 by the then colonial government, which used the CSIR and later during the apartheid era as one of its instruments for oppression to, amongst others, produce products to commit all manner of atrocities against our people in South Africa and parts of the African continent. With the advent of democracy, the democratic government repositioned, and we are very proud to say this, the CSIR to play a more progressive role in society and for it to use its research and scientific capabilities for the development of our country, our people as a whole, and our continent. In support of government strategic priorities over the past 3 decades of our democracy, the CSIR has been pivotal in advancing key sectors such as health, defense, energy, mining, manufacturing, and digital innovation, among others. In the process, the CSIR has also supported many small, medium, and micro enterprises, although we would like to see them do much more with more resources. Therefore, as Minister of Science, Technology, and Innovation, I'm proud to state that the CSIR plays a profoundly progressive role in our country's development agenda and continues to be one of the most well-run public institutions in our country, thanks to the board and the team at the CSIR. The second issue I wish to reflect on is the strategic importance of this conference for Africa's development agenda. This conference showcases the remarkable caliber of research emerging from our continent. This aspect of your conference is extremely important to give us an objective assessment of our continent's research capabilities in a number of critical areas. It is also critical for enabling the African continent to strengthen its research capacity and define what I refer to as a sovereign research agenda. This idea of a sovereign research agenda is very important to us as South Africa and for our continent. Since as a developing continent, we are still largely dependent on donors to fund our programs. We don't say we do not need donors, but in the process, the one negative consequence of that is that then the African agenda tends to be set by donors rather than Africans themselves. It's very important, therefore, during such a conference to call on our friends and our true supporters of the continent to help us develop a sovereign research agenda for the continent. This is important. This sovereign research agenda is essential for Africa's capacity to develop sustainable solutions for some of its most urgent challenges, such as food sovereignty, which is more than just food security. It includes food security and sovereignty, capacity to develop our own food resources as much as is possible. Energy security is another priority, the need for climate resilient technologies, and ensuring that Africa possesses credible pandemic preparedness capacity, as we learned from our experience during the COVID-19 period. In addition, the African continent cannot afford to be left behind in the artificial intelligence revolution, amongst others, which is underway the world over. A sovereign research agenda will ensure that Africa does not fall into the trap, as was the case with previous technological revolutions, of being reduced to importers and consumers of other people's AI solutions. As a continent, we must contribute to artificial intelligence. The development of a sovereign research agenda for Africa is absolutely critical. As the African continent, we don't want a repeat of the tragedy we experienced during the global outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, when the lives of millions on our continent were dependent on vaccines produced from other parts of the world. I am very pleased now to say, not least because of the contribution of the CSIR amongst others, we've now developed our local capacity to produce coronavirus-related vaccines and vaccines for other diseases that are common in our country. That is a major, major step forward. The third and final issue I wish to reflect on is the importance of advancing science, technology, and innovation under the current geopolitical environment. This conference takes place at a time when the world is confronted with a complex set of interconnected global challenges, which present all of us with a variety of not just ordinary threats, but existential threats, some of them. There's, of course, also the immeasurable ecological crisis that confronts us and manifests in runaway global warming, destruction of whole ecosystems, loss of biodiversity, and the acidification of the world's oceans. Add to all this the growing threat to multilateralism as a result of bullying tactics by some countries. What we learn from the impact of these challenges is that no country will be able to solve these problems alone, and also more than ever before, we have to intentionally mobilize all the available scientific knowledge in the world in order to develop sustainable responses to the challenges of our time. We are also living in a world where we are seeing live, real-time genocide in Gaza, unfortunately using some of the most advanced technologies, including artificial intelligence. This is the world we are living in now. This is why we believe that all countries should support the United Nations Declaration of the 2024 to 2033 as the International Decade of Sciences for Sustainable Development. Through this initiative, the UN essentially seeks to mobilize the global scientific community towards addressing the development goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. Again, our department's mantra is in line with this. As South Africa, we've taken a similar approach through our decadal plan for science, technology, and innovation. Through this plan, we are seeking to, 1, enhance South Africa's innovation capacity. 2, build and transform science, technology, and innovation human resources. 3, strengthen and transform the research enterprise. And 4, expand partnerships and linkages through science diplomacy. A conference such as this provides us with a unique opportunity to reflect on and strengthen our collective response to the challenges I have indicated. In conclusion, as we confront the urgent challenges of our time, we must recognize that science, technology, and innovation carry the power to shape societies and economies, and also to shape the kind of future we want and which we indeed can have. Therefore, as policymakers, scientists, researchers, and innovators, we carry a huge responsibility to ensure that science, technology, and innovation serve the public good, advance social justice, and contribute to a more equitable and sustainable global world order. It is therefore my sincere hope that we will see this conference as an opportunity to strengthen our resolve to harness science, technology, and innovation, not only to build knowledge systems that are inclusive, ethical, but also responsive to the needs of our planet and its people. Let me once again take this opportunity to congratulate the leadership and staff of the CSIR on your milestone of 80 years, and in particular, the road of transformation that we traversed since 1994. To the delegates, I wish you a productive conference and look forward to the insights and conclusions that will emerge from your deliberations. I'm looking forward to the outcomes of this conference, and with those words, I wish to thank you.
Let's offer one final applause for the chairperson's remarks made earlier. And for the masterful address delivered by the Honorable Minister, Professor Blade Nzimande. That truly felt like a stark reminder that science, technology, and innovation is not merely a technical field, but a crucial and critical instrument for our emancipation. And I think what also resonated quite beautifully is the unified effort, that collective effort to ensure that our scientific endeavors specifically are inclusive and directly tackle our nation's challenges, and do so in a manner that is just and transformative. That message, I felt, serves as the perfect foundation for the rest of the conference. Ladies and gentlemen, this marks the end of the first high-level opening session. We are now changing gears. We are moving to another high-level session, and here we will explore the socio-economic development across Africa in an era of accelerating global change. This dialogue will spotlight the urgent need to scale up sustainability-driven science, technology, and innovation to ensure that we advance inclusive growth in South Africa and for the rest of the continent. This discussion will be chaired by Professor Linda Godfrey. Professor Linda Godfrey is a principal scientist at the CSIR and extraordinary professor at the Northwest University. She has a PhD in engineering. She's a globally recognized voice in circular economy thinking in developing context. She advises global institutions on sustainability, equity, and development. A round of applause, please, as she takes over.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. We are joined this morning by a panel of internationally recognized and respected thought leaders in the area of sustainability science, technology, and innovation. I'd like to welcome each of our panel members up onto the stage. Firstly, Dr. Janusz Potocznik, the co-chair of the International Resource Panel, will be joining us virtually this morning. I'd like to invite Professor Azel De Silva, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation at Strathmore University in Kenya, to join me on stage. Dr. Rachel Chikwamba, Group Executive, Advanced Chemistry and Life Sciences at the CSIR. Dr. Chen Ning, Vice President of the Jiangsu Industrial Technology Research Institute in China. And finally, Dr. Vibha Dewan, Director General, the Energy and Resources Institute in India. Before starting with our panel this morning, I want to frame the context of our discussion. South Africa and Africa are in urgent need of development to ensure improved quality of life for all. Despite advances, Africa faces structural challenges such as persistent poverty, unemployment, infrastructure gaps, and resource insecurity that hinder inclusive growth. Africa's abundant natural resources have not created a system of equality, security, and peace for all, nor have they supported the level of infrastructure development and resource security necessary for communities to thrive. Resources are essential in the provisioning of services, and as such, Africa's future development is dependent upon resource use. While Africa's current domestic resource consumption is relatively low, it is growing, driven by population growth, urbanization, and a growing middle class. However, evidence shows that more than 50% of climate impacts, 90% of biodiversity loss, and 90% of water stress comes from the extraction and processing of resources. At the heart of the big planetary crises facing us lies the unsustainable use of resources. While our future depends on the use of resources, access to resources is becoming increasingly uncertain, given a changing global environment. The biggest risks to economies and societies over the coming decade are now recognized as environmental, with natural resource shortages listed in the top 5 global risks ranked by severity by 2035. South Africa's recurring droughts, energy insecurity, and growing global competition for critical minerals highlight this nexus of climate, resources, and development risks. Given Africa's growing demand for resources, the associated environmental and social impacts of resource extraction and use, and the growing uncertainty around access to resources, sustainable resource use must be the lens through which South Africa and Africa view their future development. Our panel discussion this morning will examine this topic and the urgent need to scale up sustainability-focused science, technology, and innovation to support sustainable resource use for socio-economic development. And with the G-STIC Conference being held on the African continent for the first time, I'd like to frame our discussion this morning with a focus on South Africa and Africa. So with that, let me jump straight into the questions that we have for our distinguished panel. And I'm hoping that Dr. Potočnik is online and he can hear us. So my first question is to Dr. Potočnik. The International Resource Panel's flagship publication is the Global Resources Outlook. The latest outlook was published in 2024. If you could speak to African leaders today, what would be the key messages from the outlook as it relates to Africa's future development in the context of resource use? I don't want to delay our proceedings this morning, so while we are waiting just for confirmation that Dr. Potočnik is online, I'm going to move to our second, and then I can revert back to posing that question. Professor Azil de Silva, given your experience around and your interest in energy systems in Africa, I read an article recently that said that as of 2025, around 600 million Africans lack access to electricity. That's roughly 43% of the continent's population. And it represents the largest share of unelectrified people anywhere in the world. There's a complexity to Africa's problem, though, in that 4 in 5 people without power live in rural areas, where grid extension is costly and logistically difficult. This has significant implications across all parts of a country's economy. How do you see Africa's strategy to achieve greater energy security?
Thank you very much. Professor da Silva, you can see there, I am a Brazilian by birth and an African by choice. I was born in Brazil by the grace of God, but I walked into this continent with my own legs. And because the average age of Africans is 19, and I've been for 28 years here, I am more African than half of the Africans. Thank you very much. Make this point clear. No? Now, I have an interesting story to tell you in 2 minutes. Linda is quite strict, so 2 minutes. Is a comparison between Africa as a continent and a country called France. Africa has 30 million square kilometers of continent with a lot of natural resources, isn't it? Yes, and 54 countries, and the beauty of so many things that this continent has, which can be perhaps, better than France and Italy and Spain. So what happens? Why is it that 1.5 million people living here, 54 countries, all sorts of possibilities, and yet the GDP of Africa as a continent is smaller than the GDP of France? It's almost unbelievable, but you can check with Google is my friend, so you can see it is the truth. Yes. So what is the problem? The problem Linda has told us, 600 million, though it's not 600 million, because it's a moving target. 30 million new Africans come every year, you know? Yes, is the country doing the best in demography, isn't it? Yeah, so what happens is that we don't have electricity. You know, you wake up and you can't do water pumping, you can't deal with the maize milling, you can't switch your television or computer, and even your mobile phone, you have to send it to the village to be charged. And that is the problem. So as long as we don't sit on the table of power, of deciding our own, our own policies that favor Africa, unfortunately, if you are not seated at the table of power, you are the menu. Yeah. So that is what I say. What we need to do is, in terms of energy, then it is health and agriculture, etc., other things. But energy is like the blood flowing around this body. And then we need, I say, 4Ds, and then I think, Linda, I have finished. So what is this 4Ds revolution? Is that we have to decarbonize, we have to decentralize, we have to digitalize, and you have to democratize energy. So the first one, it is true, 80% of the energy in South Africa is from coal. But the 60% of the potential of energy, solar, for instance, is in Africa, and 1% only installed. The potential is there. So it is that what we say, decarbonize according to your own flow and etc., no? Because things are different for Uganda and for Tanzania. And then the second thing is decentralize. You know, once you put power here, say Congo can power Africa, it is true. But you use DC power and 1 million kilometers, you are in trouble because losses are there. So let us do production of electricity where, as much as possible, it can be consumed. That's the decentralized. The third is digitalized, which is beautiful. We are now in control with the Internet of Things, with cloud computing, with big data, etc., artificial intelligence. Let's put these things there. And then it's like, Madame, she's walking, and suddenly her phone rings, and then she looks, it's a message, says, bring eggs. It's her fridge who told her, bring eggs, because I don't find that round stuff there, you know. Yes. And when I was kid, we say, close the door. The man is going to measure how many units of energy we used, you know. And then they tied it, we closed the dog, not to the thing. Today, each and every individual in Europe is measured 8,600 times per day. And then they can play things, offer you discount and everything because of digitalization. And then everything in power systems has the twin, the digital twin that you can switch on, off, or change wherever you are in the planet. And finally, democratization. We have to give power to people. And in this case, all of us here are stakeholders, agents of change. I don't know, perhaps the one sitting at the last one there, because you know it's so comfortable. You are there and you can do some email, etc. But you know, we need to be agents of change, not observers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I see that we've been able to connect with Dr. Potočnik. So, Janis, it's lovely to see you online. I'm hoping that you can hear us this morning. And I'm going to just revert back. I don't always trust technology. And so while we have you online, I'm going to revert back to your questions. The first question that I had for you, and I'm not sure if you heard it, but if you could speak to African leaders today, what would the key messages be from the Global Resources Outlook of 2024 as it relates to Africa's future development in the context of resource use?
Thank you, Linda. I hope you are hearing me now, because I'm online practically 1 hour already and hearing you well all the time. So yes, technology. Natural resources, dear friends, are the basis of our economies and livelihoods. Access to and use of natural resources, land, water, oil and gas, minerals, have been in human history always closely related to the level of well-being achieved by nations. It was and still is also driving the geopolitical efforts of consumption countries to politically control the resource-rich countries, many times leading also to the lack of stability, security, poor democratic systems, conflicts, and migration pressures. The whole history of this colonialization of nature was and still is central to fairness and equity. The events of the last few months have made it abundantly clear that the battle over natural resources is and will increasingly become a key driver for well-being, but also for security threats and geopolitical tensions across the world. According to IRP, global material use has more than tripled in the last 50 years. 4 human needs: energy, housing, mobility, and food represent 90% of total global material demand, but differ in importance by income groups. High-income countries use 6 times more materials per capita and are responsible for 10 times more climate impacts than low-income countries. Environmental transition could only be successful if done hand in hand with the transition to a more equal and socially just world. Extraction and processing of materials is driving triple planetary crisis. It is responsible for 60% of the climate change impacts, 40% of air pollution health impacts, and for more than 90% of water stress and land-related biodiversity loss. Decoupling of well-being from economic growth, from resource use, and from environmental and social impacts is thus a must. In high-income countries, absolute decoupling should be the aim, decreasing material use while maintaining or improving well-being outcomes. In low and some middle-income countries where additional material use is still needed to meet people's basic well-being needs, relative decoupling should be the aim, sustainably rising resource use at a slower rate than well-being by using resource efficiency and productivity measures. Developed countries need to create a space for developing countries to be able to meet all essential human needs, while we all together stay inside the planetary boundaries.
Thank you so much. That point, developed countries need to create space for developing countries in terms of resource use. And this links to the second question that I have. As co-chair of the International Resource Panel, you are advocating for the establishment of an international materials agency. Can you tell us more about the intentions of such an agency and what it means for the Global South and Africa in particular?
Yes, Linda, we need to understand that for the first time in human history, we face the emergence of a single tightly coupled human socio-ecological system of planetary scope. We are more interconnected and interdependent than ever, and our individual and also collective responsibility has enormously increased. Improved global governance and cooperation, it's a must. Throughout history, humans have been continuously converting natural resources to meet our needs. However, in the last decades, we have built highly extractive, inefficient, and self-defeating economic conservation systems. focused on maximizing through output of materials and profits instead of well-being of the majority of the population. Our current economic model is wasteful and it is unjust. In the process, we have used up vast quantities of the Earth's resources to drive planetary crisis while securing rather limited degrees of our well-being. Energy transition, as much as needed, will not make our economy less wasteful and more just. So we need to focus on all materials we use, including, of course, fossil fuels, in all our economic sectors, or better provisioning systems delivering our needs. Many excellent examples of circular economy practice are encouraging, but to make circular economy a norm, we need a system change, and industrialized high-income countries, which are to a large extent responsible for the current wasteful and unjust economic model, should show they are willing and able to change. We thus need better transparency and coordination. Stakeholders across the globe need access to consolidated material flows and impact data, as well as an agreed way how to move ahead. The call for better governance is coming mainly from the business sector. Energy is somehow already well covered. We have International Energy Agency and IRENA. Metals and minerals are not well covered. To speed up and better coordinate overall economic transformation, something similar as existing in energy area would be needed also for the materials. International supply chains are complex. We need improved governance related to materials, to the flows, to the impacts, to the policies. This is the way how we could steer and make the necessary space for developing countries to be able to meet their essential human needs. Our IRP colleague is proposing global minerals trust to prevent inefficient and inequitable protectionist policies, a resource allocation mechanism to ensure equitable access to the poorer or less powerful countries also have that access to the resources needed to develop their economies. An idea, of course, worth considering also in the potential agency context. But yes, I firmly believe that is necessary, and I also believe that it would be good if it's hosted by some resource-rich Global South country.
Greater transparency. Thank you so much. I'm going to move on to our next panel member this morning. I think following on from the comments made by Janis and Azel, in that we know that the greatest demand for resources right now are minerals and metals. We've seen a transition of the global economy away from biomass and renewable resources to non-renewable resources. And this has changed the nature of major environmental pressures and impacts. My question to you this morning, Dr. Chikwamba, you recently participated in the G20 Science and Innovation Bioeconomy Working Group, where the need to harness Africa's biodiversity through a sustainable, inclusive bioeconomy for the continent's future prosperity was emphasized. Where do they see the biggest opportunities in shifting South Africa and Africa's resource use towards more regenerative, renewable resources?
Thank you very much. The bioeconomy is the form of economic activity that is dependent on natural resources, depending on the use of biomass, biological resources underpinned by technology to drive economic development. And it is indeed potentially a system of economic development that has got transformative potential to move us back from the use, as you rightly said, of finite minerals and materials to something that is more renewable and regenerative. So to this end, the global initiative on the bioeconomy that is being driven by the G20 did not focus necessarily on consensus or anything, but strong recognition of the potential for the bioeconomy, which is valued at this point at about $4 trillion to about 50 or more trillion dollars by 2050. So the potential is there for us to drive economies in a manner that is regenerative and restorative and still meet our common needs. So the sectors that we look at are First and foremost, especially thinking about the African continent, the green bioeconomy, which is where we think about restorative agriculture, restorative forestry, and agro-processing. What do I mean by that? Undertaking and practicing production of food, production of materials, and production of feed in a manner that is sustainable. And when you couple that to the requirement for materials, we can use materials for sustainable energy, materials for sustainable composites, all from forestry, from agriculture, from crops. But most importantly, we can get really sustainable energy from the bioeconomy, where we can utilize resources like crops, forestry materials, marine biomass, organic waste particularly, secularizing value chains so that what we harvest, we utilize to the maximum to obtain all sorts of materials before we can discard anything. So agriculture, agro-processing, forestry are key sectors that can drive the bioeconomy. But that's not the only place where we can meet our material and energy and other demands sustainably. In industrial bioprocessing, we can use organisms as factories to make everything from very hardy materials to enzymes, to medicines, to biodegradable other biocomposites and materials that we use for industrial purposes. So industrial biotechnology is a component of the bioeconomy that is critical to a sustainable world. And lastly, I want to focus on perhaps just process development around industrial development. Here we find that we utilize less energy when we utilize bioprocesses to drive our economy. We depended less on fossil fuels and fossil fuel-based materials, and when we drive the bioeconomy. So it is an economy that is largely untapped, an economy that can provide for everything from agriculture, food, feed, materials, green processes using biocatalysis. The biorefinery is a key component when we use to the last atom the waste products that come out of forestry activity, health and health innovations when we valorize IKS for medical purposes, and the blue bioeconomy utilizing renewable sources of materials from the sea and for food and for feed. So those are the sectors that we speak to. At 8.3% of GDP in South Africa, the bioeconomy is yet to reach its full potential. More can be done for Africa and the world at large.
Thank you so much. Given the fact that we are at the CSIR conference celebrating 80 years, the G-STIC Conference, I'd like to understand from you, where do you see the role of science, technology, and innovation in this discussion around sustainable resource use in support of the continent's socio-economic development, particularly as it relates to a vibrant bioeconomy?
So science, technology, and innovation prime the bioeconomy. You cannot drive the bioeconomy to its full potential without science, technology, and innovation. So how does it do this? We speak about secularization of value chains so that we can make the most out of the materials that we have and move away from using fossil materials. We use technologies such as the biorefinery, for example, to really make sure that even agricultural waste, forestry waste is turned into very high value molecules. We think about, agriculture that is regenerative and precise and efficient, minimizing resource use and fossil fuel use. Precision agriculture drives that. We talk about, medicine and health. You can only arrive at the highly valuable molecules through innovation, science, technology, and innovation. The traditional knowledge that we rely on so much, we've relied on it historically, we continue to rely on it for medications, among other things. We valorize that traditional knowledge and build on it through science, technology, and innovation. It is the driver of agricultural hubs, manufacturer hubs, and sustainable settlements. So yeah, STI is vital to the realization of a thriving bioeconomy and an overall thriving economy.
Thank you so much. With that, I'd like to also reflect on the lessons learned from China and India as we follow up on this discussion around sustainable resource use. My next question to Dr. Ning. China is known to have invested heavily in its domestic infrastructure, and we can see how that has supported the country's development and with it, poverty reduction. How did science, technology, and innovation inform that resource-intensive development pathway? And how did your organization, G-STIC, support government and industry in that process?
Okay, thank you, Linda. Thank you for the question. And before answering your question, I'd like to say that it is my great pleasure to be part of today's event and to be invited to attend today's panel discussion. It's a shame for me to say that although I have been in the business of international cooperation for 2 decades, but it is my first time to South Africa as a country. I'm so sorry. But I hope that I'm being part of today's event and my first trip to South Africa, I will know better about this country. I will, find more opportunities for the cooperation between my country and my organization to cooperate with South Africa. And I hope that from my introduction later, the colleagues here will have better understanding of my organization. And come back to your question about infrastructure of China. Talk about infrastructure of China. China is very famous in investing a lot of money into infrastructure, including the highway, the high-speed train, and the solar panel, and some UHV grids, that sort of things. But actually, in the past several decades, China has also invested a lot into science and technology. Science and technology is also infrastructure. A lot of energy, a lot of money have been invested into this area. But 2 decades ago, or at least 10 years ago, in China, we have met some very serious problem, which we call the 2 layers of skin. One layer of the skin is the science and technology. The other layer is the economy. In China, 2 decades ago, we met a very serious problem, which is that we invest a lot of money into science and technology, a lot of universities, a lot of researchers, a lot of researches, a lot of papers, a lot of patents. But most of them, has nothing to do with the economy and industry. So Jiangsu, as a very industrialized province in China, we also faced the same problem. So the leader of the Jiangsu province, went around the world to learn how should we do to solve that problem, to make sure that the development and achievement of science and technology will bring impact to the real social development and economic development. So we copy the model of a German organization which is called the Fraunhofer. It is very good at transfer the technology from the university and academia into the industry. So we copied that model and set up G-STIC, Jiangsu Industrial Technology Research Institutes. And in around 12 years, from nothing from scratch, we set up our ecosystem. Now we have around 105 research institutes. And for each of these research institutes, G-STIC invested around 100 million RMB, a lot of money. And simultaneously, we also set up an ecosystem of we call the major project companies, 150 major project companies. For each of these major project companies, we invested around 30 million RMB. So the research institutes and the major project companies as a pillar, the biggest pillar for the G-STIC system. But on the other hand, we also cooperate with the universities, with the academia. We cooperate with 120 Chinese domestic universities and around 93 international foreign universities. And also we worked as the secretariat of 2 international organizations, which is, one of them is WICHO, the World Association for Industrial and Technological Research Organization, which has around 200 international members from around 80 countries. And the other one is the ICAM, the International Coalition for the Intellectual Manufacturing, with around 80 members from 30 countries. And so we also cooperate with the academia, with the universities. This is the second pillar of the G-STIC system. And the third pillar is to cooperate with the industry. We cooperate with around 580 established companies in different segments. They are the top companies in different segments, ranked number 1 in the Yangtze Delta region in China, or ranked top 3 in China in different segments. And they should have at least the annual revenue above 100 million, which means that this kind of companies are very sort of mature about their technology, about their products, about their manufacturing, and about their market. They have their research expertise. They have their own research team. But they still need to cooperate with the university. So we cooperate with these 580 companies to collect the technology problems they want to solve by the help of universities. And totally now we collected around 3,000 technology problems from the industry. And we will also ask them how much money you want to pay to solve these problems. Because we believe only when you want to pay money, it's a real problem. It deserves us supporting that. So the promised or intended money for these 3,000 technology problems from the industry is about 12 billion RMB. And for the time being, we help to solve 1/3 of them, 1,000 technology problems. The real money that have been input by the companies and industries to the universities is about 3 billion RMB. So it's a very unique and special mechanism. On the one hand, we help the industry and the companies to solve their technologies with the help of universities. But on the other hand, we help the universities, we help the research teams to find a scenario to apply their technology. So that I have just introduced the 3 pillars of G-STIC system. On the one hand, we invest into the research institutes, major project companies. We own some share of that companies. And also we cooperate with the academia, with the universities. And on the other hand, we cooperate with the industry. So actually, G-STIC is actually setting up an ecosystem to invite everybody to work together so we can transfer the technology from the university to transfer the science and technology into the real innovation, which will bring the impact to the society and economy. And actually, we are also setting up a bridge to connect the academia and the industry. And also, we input a lot of efforts into international cooperation. We want to set up a bridge to connect China, Jiangsu province, and Yangtze Delta region with other parts of the world. That's what we have done in the past around 12 years. Comparing with CSIR 80 years, we are so young, but we have been doing sort of well. And actually, G-STIC has been the sort of flagship in China in terms of technology transfer. So actually, the ecosystem we have been setting up is also infrastructure, to help the country develop better. Okay,
thank you so much. I think building on your question then and the lessons learned from G-STIC, what would be your guidance to South African and African research institutions in ensuring Africa's future development is sustainable?
Okay, and talking about the experience that we can share with the South African counterparts, maybe there are several points. First, as I mentioned, we set up around 105 research institutes and 150 major project companies. Almost all of them are also companies. Our research institutes, 105 research institutes, are also companies, because we believe only with the form of company or for cooperation, we can really transfer the technology from the academia into industry. This is the first point. We should have a platform. This platform to transfer the technology should be companies. This is the first point. The second point is that we have to make sure the research team own that research institutes as companies. Only with that way, the research team has the motivation to develop this organization well, and they can also benefit from that. And the third point is that the research team have to invest money out of their own pocket into this research team and also as a company. Because only when you want to invest your own money, it shows that you are confident about your technology. And these research institutes and companies are owned by the research team, so they have the motivation. But we have also set up some unique mechanism, because for each of the research institutes and the major project company, the investment is very big. It is invested primarily by G-STIC and the local government. But we have also to set up a mechanism to make sure the research team invests only a small amount of money into that company, but they own the primary share of that company. Because I don't have the time to dig into the details, but this mechanism is very unique, either in China and also around the world. Later, if anyone are interested in it, I would very like to talk with you on that in detail. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to move on to our next panel member, Dr. Dewan, to a slightly different sector as well. We've heard about energy, we've heard about the bioeconomy, infrastructure, resource intensity, but to another issue that also plagues, I would say, South Africa, which is around water. And so the question that I have to you, India, like China, is seeing rapid development and with it increased resource use. Can you share with us how India's innovations and programs in agriculture and water management in particular can inspire African solutions for improved water security and resilience and improved food security?
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here, and congratulations for the 80th anniversary. Well, when I look at India and China, I always look into the challenges the two continents are facing, India as a country and Africa as a continent. The problem over here is that the impact, unfortunately, the negative impact of climate change is felt in these areas. We are already facing the increase in population, which is a challenge, but on the other hand, somewhere it is that we are developing very fast. And that fast development further put pressures because as the economic development takes place, it is the use of resources also goes up. Today we can say that per capita consumption is very low. It's bound to go up. And then when I look at opportunities, I'll say there are ample. Because unlike many other economies, we are growing very fast. And we also have an opportunity to go or follow the sustainable way. When we talk of infrastructure, we don't have to break anything and rebuild. We are building for the first time. And therefore, we can have all the practices that we feel are better. We can incorporate that in our plan. Now, coming to water and agriculture, because it was also mentioned in the morning session, that food security is essential for any country. Unfortunately, due to climate change, the negative impact on food productivity in Africa and India is already being felt. It's also droughts, vicious cycles of droughts and floods, which are further putting pressure. Now let's look into what can we do, because this is something which is already there. Of course, we have to take care of what more can be done. We are talking about already 1.5 degrees temperature has increased, and we can see what kind of havoc it is creating. Agriculture, of course, simple biology question is CO2 plus water makes glucose molecule and you get oxygen out of it. But the fact is that agriculture itself contributes in my country almost 16% of GHG emissions. Let's look into the geopolitical situation. Let's look into the fertilizer production and so on. Now, what we require from lesser resources, we have to produce more. Do we have technologies? I'll say yes, we have many technologies even today. And many technologies which we haven't used in the past, but we can use it today because today we have machines. For example, I'll take in agriculture, the use conservation agriculture, no-tilling, and as well as using the crop residue. We discarded that because that required too much of manual labor. Today we can do it because we have seed planters. So even if you have your agriculture residue in the field, you can still sow your seed. And the advantage is that this becomes like a slow release fertilizer, and it also conserves water moisture in the soil, because when you do tilling, there is so much of water being lost and otherwise, so you are overcoming that. Let's look into, but what also happens, do we have the capex? Because in the past, we spoke about many technologies like canal irrigation and then use of sprinklers and so on. But then somewhere those are expensive technologies. Can we think of subsoil irrigation, precision agriculture? Your initial cost is high, but you never overwater your plants. You're giving plant water in the root zone itself. Along with the fertilizer is given when the plant requires it. You decide on the stage, whether it's grain filling stage, whether it is rapid biomass production stage. So accordingly, you water your plant and you give only that much of moisture that is required. Let me now come to fertilizer, which is the most important point, which also contributes to GHG emissions. Fertilizer production itself is highly energy intensive process. Then when it goes to the field, most of the governments in my country, my government gives 90% subsidy on urea because food is a very sensitive subject. You want that to be available to masses at affordable price. And farmer, therefore you give subsidy to the farmer, and it's also true in the developed part of the world. So therefore what happens is, first of all, the farmer doesn't value urea or fertilizer as much as he should, and therefore it is crop-wise that you save that if you're going for wheat production, put this much of urea at stage 1, 2, 3, and so on. So India has done soil testing, mandatory more or less, and a lot of soil labs have been set up so that you actually decide what is required in your soil, not crop-wise, but according to the condition of the soil. Few years back, there was invention of urea applicator so that you apply urea in the root zone. So large farmers adopted that. But many farmers, and India is a country of small and medium scale farmers and people having just about a hectare of land, so they can't afford it. So it is broadcasted in the field. Now what happens is, this urea, the nitrogen gets converted into nitrous oxide, and it gets dissolved in water and absorbed by the plant. How much will be the absorption by the plant? Not even 30%. The rest of it goes down and pollutes your potable water. Now, in fact, in India, and I'm very proud to be associated with TERI because we also came up with nano fertilizer. Now, what this technology is, we feel anything which mixes in water is very small. It mixes in water. But then this urea molecule can actually be broken into millions of pieces. And there are other technologies, because if this invention was 10 years back, we might have failed. But now it is that with drones, you can apply this nano urea, nano DAP, nano fertilizers through drones, and your cost is negligible. They spray it on the leaf. It's more or less 99% plus absorption. Within 3 hours, so even if it rains, plant has already absorbed. And so you're taking it like a medicine. So if you suffer from any disease, you don't go to a swimming pool and put antibiotic over there, you take antibiotic, or intravenous if you're all the more serious. So here it is something like giving fertilizer to the plant as intravenous. So 100% absorption. And therefore, you have to produce almost 1/10 of the fertilizer dose to be given to the plant. So there is GHG emissions immediately gets reduced at various levels. So you can conserve water. It's the wrong, I should say, again, because agriculture is a sensitive subject, the pricing of water is distorted. We want to give to the farmer more or less free. And therefore, it is abusing water resource, and we have to be careful. We also have to look into which crop to grow where, and over there, governments can play a very important role. And there was one program in Terry, which we have done, and that was Save Water, Make Money. So rather than giving subsidized water to the farmer, we said, okay, give direct subsidy to the farmer and let him decide what to do. Similarly, there is a scheme because irrigation is very important to increase food productivity. So electricity is given more or less free, but we also are into solar pumping. But then farmer has a choice whether he wants to use that energy for pumping water or he wants to put it in the grid, and that becomes a second source of income for him. And third thing which we have recently in India, it is becoming very popular, and that is agroforestry. Because if you grow trees in your farm, it is not competing for resources because their roots go very deep. But then link it with carbon credits. So it's a win-win situation for the farmer. He gets more income, something where he doesn't have to worry that much about the changing climate as well. Trees tolerate much more. And then overall, it is the micro-environment, everything gets improved and they get money as well. So I'll stop here.
Thank you so much. I think it was very ambitious to take on a topic of this size in just around about 30 minutes, and unfortunately we've come to an end. But we have 2 days to get into the heart and the detail of what we've touched on this morning. So I think just my closing comment that I mentioned in the opening was sustainable resource use must be the lens through which South Africa and Africa view their future development. The one thing I think I've taken from the panel discussion this morning is that in doing that, there is major opportunity for the continent and a very significant role to play for science, technology, and innovation. So please join me in thanking our wonderful panel this morning.
Thank you, Professor Godfrey, for steering that discussion with such clarity and eloquency. I think it was beautiful how she was able to draw out the richness of each perspective. A big thank you also to our panelists for your insights and contributing meaningfully to the outcomes of this convergence. One last round of applause, please. We have come to the end of the high-level session, but perhaps before I move into what we are going to do next, I'm reminded that I actually asked the question to say who would be moderating the panel discussion. And I was informed that no, we've got it covered. We have a professor who's going to do it. And so when I received her bio, I was highly impressed, and I thought, no arguments from my side. I do moderate, but let me sit back with my postgraduate diploma. The next phase of our program is the thematic plenary session as well as TED Talks. These will commence at 11:15 in different venues within the ICC. We do encourage that you attend and be part of the conversation. To navigate the program once again, please scan your QR code on the delegate tag, and it will be your guide in terms of how to move. We do have ushers throughout the ICC should you require any further clarity or information. From my side, it has been an honor hosting you all this morning. Thank you for allowing me to steer this first part of the agenda. Have a wonderful day.